Hi, I'm Phil Lamar, voice of Green Lantern in Justice League, and you're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Cinema Geeks. I am one of your Cinema Geeks, OptimusSolo, and joining me for today's record is Miss HardCandiMandi.
Hey, dudes.
Hey, dudette. MovieRevolt Dan.
Sup?
A lot. And also FridleyCent. Hello, sir.
Hi.
And we are here today for another episode of Cinema Geeks, going back to one of the series that we've been doing, and that would be the video game film series. So we're going back into the vault to find some more films that are based on video games. I guess we should just get right to it here. We're talking about Postal today, and it's as hard for me to introduce that as it was to press play on the DVD player. Postal is another Uwe Boll film that was released October 18th, 2007 in Germany and May of 2008 United States. And it's directed, produced, written by Uwe Boll, starring Zach Ward, Dave Foley, J.K. Simmons makes an appearance, Vern Troyer makes an appearance, as well as a few other people as we may or may not get into, I don't know. But before we get to the actual film and all of the details, Matt, have you ever played Postal or Postal 2?
Oh, man. So, kinda? I mean, not really. Okay. So, when Postal came out, or sometime after Postal came out, me and my buddy Jimmy, who is the guy who got me into video games, like, for real, like, he's the reason why I've played as many games as I have, and he was almost always the first one to get into a game and get me into it. He had a copy of it that I don't know how he got or whatever, and we tried to install it and we couldn't get it to run. And back then, like in the early 2000s, if you had a game from the mid-90s, like sometimes there just wasn't a way to get it to run in your system. If your computer was too new, you couldn't run an old game. I do think recently I bought a copy on Good Old Games to play before this, because I have this, like, we shouldn't be watching movies that no one's played, but, like, what this movie the game doesn't deserve to be played because of the movie, and even, I guess, supposedly the creator of the game's character in this movie said that the movie is a bastardization and ruining of the game. I don't know if that's the real guy, because in Pixels they just said, hey, this is the creator of Pac-Man, but it wasn't. It was just some old Japanese dude that they just hired to say was the creator of Pac-Man. So, like, and Uwe Boll isn't as high class as Adam Sandler, if you can believe it. So, like, that could just be some old white dude they paid to say he created Postal and then hated the game / hated the movie, or loved his game, hated the movie, made some of it. So, in short, no, I haven't played the game.
Amanda, have you played either of these games?
No, I haven't. And normally after watching one of these video game movie adaptations and not have played the game, I can kind of get a feel for what the game was like, even though I didn't play the game. With this, I have no idea what the point of this movie was, and I still have no idea what the point of the game was, or how it tied into the game whatsoever, because none of this made sense.
Dan, any experience with the game?
No. I was so confused by this movie. I went on YouTube just to watch video of because that's what kids do nowadays. They watch people play video games. So because I'm like, what? How did this even, like, just to get an understanding of what occurred? Like, is there a basis for any of this? And there isn't. But no, I've never played the game. But I did, like I said, watch some clips on YouTube, which it seemed kind of just like, oh, it's crazy. It's like Grand Theft Auto, but not as entertaining or well thought out. So,
interesting.
I had no
so you
interest
didn't enjoy watching people play the game either?
It was very, I mean, it's an older game, and the graphics were not great, and just looked like, oh, that was controversial, but not so much, So not, like, nowadays, I think it would just be, people would not be as, if it came out today, people like, we've seen worse. So.
All right, well, let's move on then, because I haven't played the game either. So let's actually get into the nuts and bolts of the actual movie, since we don't have much to base off of if it was a good adaptation of the game or not. Let's just start with the movie poster. How about that? The movie poster says, "Some comedies go too far, ... others start there." And then there's a quotation from, I can't read the actual magazine or the website that said this. The quotation is live action South Park. Dan, is that blasphemy?
Yes, by all means, because, like, to put this in the same camp as South Park, it's like someone who watched South Park but doesn't get the joke at all.
I feel like that has to be said by someone that actually has never watched South Park, and they just think they know what it's about because of something they've heard, or like they've seen a clip. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those like, that just like judged it immediately as, oh, this is crude and it's rude, and I guess that's how they're in the same camp maybe in their mind.
Yeah, there was like the person who did it, like their kids watched South Park and then they heard it in the background and like, oh, this is awful, and yeah, this is not.
So no. We watched this on DVD because we
really
we have it on DVD. It is part of the 6-pack of movies we will be offering up to a winner at the end of this session of going through video game films. And that's probably one of the motivations for why we're giving this pack away, so we can get this out of our house.
They made DVDs of this movie.
Yes.
And, wow.
So let me say, because I am assuming that you guys watched this on YouTube or something of the like, and so the DVD has trailers, previews for other movies, and during those trailers, it was becoming more and more. It was becoming more and more scary that we were about to watch this film, because a lot of times you can base the quality of the film slightly on the trailers that are included in the DVD. You can at least get a feel for like production value or like just overall quality, and the trailers were downright scary. So it was real hard to hit play when it finally got to the menu for Postal. So I'll let you guys go first though. So initial thoughts on the movie as a whole. Let's start with Matt. What did you think as far as Postal went as a movie?
Bad. Okay, so here's the thing, and I said this to you guys about halfway into it. It feels like a really shitty writer tried to make a more offensive, more conservative-leaning episode of like Key and Peele or Mr. Show or Portlandia, where it's just like a bunch of seemingly unconnected scenes, and then like one or two characters from like scene 2 and scene 5 meet up in scene 7, and it just kind of flows into its own overarching story, but each scene doesn't really connect hard to each other. It just seems like, hey, let's make it like, it'd be a funny joke, cult leader that doesn't believe it, so that's this scene. It'd be a funny joke if a guy's wife cheats on a bunch, so that's this scene. And then, like, they just kind of, like, copied and pasted them together, and so it doesn't work.
We have to come clean about one thing, first of all, and I guess we probably deserve some sort of punishment when this whole thing is over, because Amanda and myself, we did not get through the whole movie. So we owe you guys something, because that's the deal, is we're supposed to be watching all these films, but it was a little over halfway, and we couldn't do it. We couldn't do it anymore. So we actually did not finish almost the last half of this film. But saying that, before Dan and Matt get a chance to tell us what kind of punishment we'd deserve to do or have to do or something like that, Amanda, what was your thoughts of what we did see?
Oh my gosh. If anybody liked this, they are a sad excuse for a humanoid. Pretty sure their knuckles are still dragging the ground. They haven't been able to form speech yet. And I don't know. I was offended by like the first scene in the movie more than anything else that I saw throughout, and that's saying something. I don't really get offended super easy, especially if it's not like directly involving me, but I was offended in this, and it wasn't in a way that you can just kind of brush off. the way I felt about it. So I was a little pissed off right away in the beginning, and it got worse and worse and worse, and just Uwe Boll needs to just not.
Yeah, that is absolutely for sure. Dan, what's your initial take on the quote-unquote film?
Quote-unquote film. Wow. So so I will say, like, the latter half, like, it gets into what kind of the game is like, because it becomes this spoiler, this gigantic, like, shootout where, like Matt said, none of it really makes any sense, but, like, then everyone starts killing each other, which is kind of like what Postal is, and it's, I don't know, it was like he was taking the term going postal and using that to it was a little bit ridiculous. This is like, you know, like that kid in high school that was like the class clown that you kind of thought was funny, but when you look back at it as an adult, you realize, wow, that was really juvenile. If that kid directed a movie that was written by that uncle that you only see at Thanksgiving that watches way too much Fox News, and they made a movie, it would be Postal. And it is so, like, I completely understand it being like I wasn't offended by it just because it wanted me to be offended by it. So I was, and the thing about watching a movie like Blood Rain or some of the other bad Uwe Boll movies that we've seen, you can at least laugh at them, but it's hard to laugh at a bad comedy because it's like, no, it just becomes tedious because you can't laugh at it because it's just so bad, it like hurts you in the inside. Just like the running, like so much wrongness. Like there's this, you know, you have these. Did you guys see the? I don't know if you got to the point where these two old guys that have the most creepy conversations I've ever heard in my life, talking about like
I hope she comes back. That one.
Yeah, like they're like sexual conversations about like all these women, and they're just so just gross and like, and those are like J.K. Simmons is in this movie.
Why?
Like, Oscar winner J.K. Simmons is in this movie. Dave Foley, like, who was in Kids in the Hall, one of the best sketch comedies of the 90s. A very funny guy. You just see the soul of his body, like, just escaping with every passing moment. Like, you could tell it's like, this is where I'm at. This movie. Man. And I did not expect to see Dave Foley naked. That was not on my, that was not expected watching this movie on YouTube. But you can. So there's that. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, man, I'm picturing like someone on like a stand-up stage, you know, stand-up comedian or like an improv or whatever. Like this would be, you know, like if you were on stage and you were trying to make the jokes that this movie is trying to make, it would be a completely silent room. Like you'd get booed off the stage at some point. Like.
You're going to get your ass kicked in the parking lot later. That's how bad this was.
But I'm just saying, like, nobody would find the jokes on this funny if you were, like, trying to say them as, like, a stand-up joke or, like, you know, tell someone this joke or that joke. Like, when you're going over, like, the scenes or the script or whatever, like, there's no chance that anybody in that room found any of it funny outside of Uwe Boll. Like...
Who appears in the movie, by the way. Like, he actually has a scene that's meant to be kind of fun.
Which wasn't funny, it was disturbing.
Well, here, I'll give you a little insight into, I guess, some behind the scenes for those that haven't looked this up yet. But, you know, there was a previous script to this film. Apparently it was a little darker, more gritty, supposed to be more towards...
There was a script. That's more surprising.
more based on, I guess, the game of some sort, maybe the second game, I guess. But Boll specifically did not want anything like that. He wanted it to be a comedy. And... He
didn't achieve that. So.
And this is what he's basically going for. He wanted it to be revenge against people who have protested or disliked his previous movies.
So the Taliban has come against his movies?
No, like
guess they're not all bad. Oh, jeez.
like all the people that said like your movie's bad because of this or your movie's bad because of that. Like this was his like middle finger to those people. Like I'm gonna do all that and I'm gonna do it even more. And
maybe you should just do a good fucking movie.
I mean, this is which group in the world is not offended or would not be offended at least at some point during this film. Like they leave no group untouched. Like, whether it's women, whether it's different races, whether it's different, types of people, whether it's priests, whether it's handicap, whether it's victims of the Holocaust. I mean, they do not leave any group untouched, and it's like remarkable that they somehow fit in every single offensive thing that they did during this film. I agree with Dan to a point. Like, you can't really be offended because it's just so dumb that it's like, it's almost.
No, I think you could be. I won't be offended by it because it's so trying to get me offended that it's like, no, I'm not going to play your game. It's
right.
That's it. Yeah.
Chinese, African American, 9/11, overweight individuals, the police, like they go after every single group, and it's it's relentless. And the scene with Boll and the quote unquote maker or creator of the game, if that was him, I didn't look it up. It's just awful. Like, it's like the worst kind of breaking the fourth wall ever. And he's not clever. So this movie, the budget for this movie was $15 million.
What?
So I don't know who got that money. I don't know if that's what it cost to get J.K. Simmons, Dave Foley, and Vern Troyer involved. But it cost $15 million. The movie worldwide made $146,000.
More than it should.
More than it should, but not even close to. I mean, that's a disastrous amount of box office compared to the budget. Less than $200,000 on a $15 million budget.
Well, who even wanted this movie? Nobody.
Nobody. And I guess even Foley was going up to Uwe Boll and trying to get him to take some of the offensive stuff out because he's like, no screens, no theaters are going to show this if you leave all of this stuff in. And it definitely did not. I think, I don't know what its max was, if it, like, number of screens, probably 50. I guess.
Screens.
Here we go. Distributors pulled out of their deal for a wide release of 1,500 screens to a limited release of 4 screens. And I guess he just came after like the theaters and was saying that, quoting censorship and all this other stuff and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, and he had a whole campaign trying to make fun of Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull because they opened one day apart from each other, including Vern Troyer dressing up as Indiana Jones and proclaiming Postal's superiority to that movie. So
well, that worked out well.
Yeah. Approval rating currently, guys, it actually has a 7% on Rotten Tomatoes.
What?
3 people have written positive reviews. Now, just in case you want to know where to avoid going, and I don't know what this place is, but there's apparently a website or a blog or a review place that's called Newsblaze, Newsblaze. 2 of the 3 positive reviews come from that source. 2 different people writing for that site or that blog or that whatever. I'm not familiar with what Newsblaze is, but apparently 2 of those people were 2 of the 3 positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes.
So there's probably 3 15-year-old boys who have very limited interaction with people
and
sitting in basements somewhere watching this movie.
The other one came from a place called Film Threat. So 3 positive reviews out of like 50 or something like that Rotten Tomatoes has had. Any specific moments, Matt, that you want to point out? Things that was there anything you liked about the film?
Ooh. So there are a number of things where I could be like, I can see where they're going with that. But I don't know, man. Like, I like Dave Foley. He's hilarious. Not in this movie, but in other things, he's great. Like, most things, he's great. I don't have anything nice to say about this movie. At all. Like, I can't follow the logic of it. I can't do anything. Like, it doesn't paint anyone in a good light, which I guess is kind of the point, but like including the director.
Yeah.
Like I don't have anything to say.
In his scene, I didn't rewind it to watch back what he actually says, because that would have been a crime against humanity to rewind any part of this film and watch it a second time. But does he utter a line of some sort that says that he gets horny when there's a crowd with children in it?
Yeah, that
Yes.
is exactly the words he yes. Yeah.
What? Like, I don't get it. Okay. This movie's like, just to like point out the kind of bad comedy that they're going for. Like the whole George Bush and like regardless of what you think about George Bush and whatever, like, you know me and spelling, like, that's not a funny joke. Like, but that's the easiest like pull you could possibly make, and it's not like you're clever to say something like that. So I don't know. And that's like one of the least bad ones.
That's where it doesn't fit with the South Park camp, because South Park really is intelligent. It might have fart jokes and stuff, but they do their homework, and they speak to some things that's going on in society in our world. They don't just make these haha Family Guy jokes. You know what I mean?
It's like it's even worse than that. Worse than a Family Guy joke. But like, yeah, he says something about being horny with a crowd with children, and then follows that up with a scene in which only children are being shot. Like, I don't know how long that takes, but like, it's literally like a 2 or 3 minute sequence where we just get to see like a dozen children shot and killed. Dan, anything positive that you can think of at all for Postal?
I don't have to watch it again.
That is a very positive. Amanda, you have other notes that you want to bring up here?
All my notes are really awful. J.K. Simmons, what you thinking? Is that the dude from The Mummy? Everyone is so stereotypical throughout this. It's not even cute. This entire movie is pointless. Uwe Boll might be the worst person in the world.
These are notes that are coming to your mind as you watch. So.
Yeah. This is the most useless piece of shit
she got violent
I've
towards the end.
ever been forced to view. And then shooting at children. That's what I
your
have.
notes?
And then I stopped.
So
go ahead, Matt.
So you guys quit watching it before Vern Troyer got raped to death by chimps then?
Oh my god.
Yeah, we missed that.
Thank you for stopping this movie. I just kept looking over at him.
I was getting judged so hard for not stopping the movie. Like, she was like, I was like, the longer I let this play, somehow this is reflecting on me, I guess. So I'm like, I can't do it any longer. She's like burning holes into me with her eyes.
They were like taking off from stealing the crotchy dolls. With Vern Troyer.
It was right after all the
suitcase.
children get shot, and then they were taken off with the dolls. The one thing I wrote down that I haven't... This makes you appreciate how hard making a movie is. Like, not saying that they were, putting any type of effort forward here, or that they were... But, like, it just shows, like, all the different things that can make a movie look so bad, can make it sound so bad, can make it do whatever, like... Even like when you watch a film that's quote unquote maybe bad in your opinion, that's still made on somewhat of a professional level, like there's an art to that, like there's a skill set to making a movie look professional, and this is something that somebody could have made on YouTube, I would feel like, or just like on their whatever, their handheld camera, and it could have been the same quality level. So yeah, this is somewhat painful. Anybody else have any notes before we give this thing a grade? Because I don't want to give this too much more time.
I was thinking back to the scene where like the police officer gets out of his car and just like shoots the like Asian lady that's turning like that. There's no joke there. There's nothing even like remotely, like, what is that even commenting on? I guess
that's what I don't
Asian
get.
People
Yeah, it's
don't drive, and people shoot that. Like, that doesn't. You're trying. No, I was gonna say you're trying too hard, but you're not trying too hard. But like, it's just that was the thing.
It's not a political
they were
satire. Like, if you're not you're not satirizing anything. Like, what is that commenting on? Like, a bunch of this stuff, like you're talking about, like, what is it commenting on? What is the stance that he is taking? Like, what's the point of killing 12 children in a row? What's the point of shooting the Asian lady who's not going on a green light? Like,
But it's a police officer too shooting her for no reason.
But like even when you're doing stuff on 9/11, like okay, so there's a political thing, or there's a not necessarily a political thing, but stuff that holds some political connotation. Like what commentary are you making on that? That you're making a joke out of that whole thing? Like I don't understand.
That's what I was the most offended about was the 9/11 stuff.
I guess I just don't get what commentary he's making on most of these things. Like, Matt, did you find any of the jokes that had some type of... You said you could see maybe some of the things like, oh, I see where you're going with this.
Honestly, I think that the first joke of, like why would you do it? Like, what are they in it for? Like, had some potential to be written into a good joke. And definitely, like, I think that's the most Key and Peele, like, vein. But, yeah, I don't know. It's just inappropriate and trying to be offensive, and I think I'm with Dan where it's like I can't be offensive because it's not smart enough.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Luckily, guys, there was a sequel in the works, but back in 2013, Boll announced he was funding production of Postal 2 through a Kickstarter, but then it was canceled like less than 2 months later because of a lack of funding. So
first Kickstarter to lose money.
So there's that. We at least have that to tide us over that there's not going to be another one of these. And man, let's do some grades and final thoughts all the way around the horn here. Amanda, what kind of grade would you give Postal, and anything you didn't get to spit out there about it?
Oh, I have nothing else to say about this crap. But grade, can I give it a 0? Can I give it a negative something? Because I don't feel like any negative number would be good enough, so just 0.
Okay, 0 from Amanda. Matt, final thoughts and grade?
Man, I'll give it a 1? A 2? I'll give it a 2 because I think it could have been worse. Like at least the camera was. I think the camera was steady in most of the scenes. And, like, it had some actors that like, though the material was terrible, they seemed to at least try a little bit. Like, it could have gone... Like, I don't like any of the content. I don't think it really hit on any of the places it was supposed to hit. But, like, it was still watchable. So I'm going to give it a 2.
You call this watchable?
I did. Yeah, it's watchable. It's not enjoyable, but it's watchable.
I can't agree with that since we didn't get to watch the whole thing, so I found it unwatchable. I'm with Amanda. I give this a 0. Whatever the lowest score that you can give in this gradient scale, I give it, because we have seen a lot of bad video game films, and I was not expecting one to come along that was by far the worst thing that we've seen. Like, this is like leaps and bounds somehow worse than the garbage that we have sat through. Like, this is the worst film that we've seen in this video series. This may be the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. This makes Room look great. So, and whatever other films. I haven't seen, what is the other film that everyone always says is like the worst film of all time? What is it?
Troll 2?
Yeah, so I'm going to go watch Troll 2 to see if Postal might beat it as the worst film ever. Dan, what do you think?
I had like a 7. No, sorry. No, it's a 0 for me too. It's in probably the worst movie I've ever seen. Not even being hyperbolic, because it was gonna be a Uwe Boll movie, and now it's definitely this one. And yeah, like at least, like I said, at least some of those bad movies like a Blood Rain or Troll 2 or Room, like you can get some ironic humor out of it or enjoyment. This one you can't. There's like nothing. It's it's like being stuck with someone who's not funny, but you're on a flight and they won't stop talking, so you can't move at all. So it's just not good. Yeah. That's my quote for it. Not good.
I like that. Amanda, is this the worst film we've seen in this series for you too?
Oh, by far.
Is it the worst film you've ever seen?
Oh, yes. Yes, it is.
So that's maybe 3 votes. And we're not being hyperbolic, like Dan said. We're being honest. We've seen a lot of movies. We've seen a lot of bad movies. I would have to think long and hard to think of something that I thought was worse than this. Matt?
I missed Dead or Alive. Like, watching this, I'm like, that was so much better than I gave it credit for.
Let's go back and rescore a couple of these films that we scored earlier on. Matt, is it the worst for you of the video game series, or is there something that was worse? Because you gave it a 2. I think you might have given a 1 out at some point, didn't you? Or I don't know.
Oh, no. I feel like 1 is a functionally broken movie. This one at least has elements of moviedom. Like, and if I did, then I'll recorrect this to 0. Like, this is definitely the worst video game movie I've ever seen, including movies I haven't watched for this series, because there are some of those. And, like, yeah, I think it might be one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Like, I have seen other movies that were, like independent films that, like I said, were functionally broken. Like, there's a lack of logic and like camera work that's just unwatchable. And I think those might be a little worse, but like this is definitely the worst high budget. Like if you're talking about a movie in the millions of dollars, this is probably the worst that's ever been made.
I think that's a good stat there. It's something that's at least had a budget of $1 million or more, because you can't count the stuff that's less than that because they're not dealing with much there. I agree. The one of the most disturbing things though, you had sent a link in on our Twitter messaging or something of the fact that you were watching this on YouTube. Did you guys read any of the comments on the YouTube video page?
I was afraid to, so no.
They are.
I tried to avoid YouTube comments to begin. It's usually as a rule of thumb.
And this is why. This is the definition of why you should avoid YouTube comments. The comments under the movie on YouTube are overwhelmingly positive. Like overwhelmingly positive about this.
It's
film.
got like maybe a sarcasm.
There was like genuine people I feel that were saying that they liked the film. Maybe I was just reading it too quickly, but it seemed like there was a lot of actual like people were saying people said this movie was garbage and I don't see what they're talking about, or people will say this is bad and I think it's hilarious. Like it is not a good thing to read, whether it's sarcastic, tongue in cheek, or whatever. I read 10 comments and I had to stop. I was like, I can't continue to subject myself to this. So do yourself a favor and avoid YouTube comments like Dan said. All right, so that is it for Postal. That is our 15th video game film that we have reviewed. We're getting closer, guys. There's only 22 total, so this is number 15. So we have 5 from the rest of the 2000 before last year, and then we have the 2 that came out last year that we hadn't had a chance to talk about yet. So next up on our video game series is going to be Hitman.
Yes.
Also came out in 2007, the same year as Postal. Amanda, you commented first, so what's your excitement level for Hitman, and have you seen it before?
Pretty freaking excited. Yes, I've seen it before. I own it. I really like this character. I've not got to play the game, though. I don't know why. I fell off video games for a little while, and this is during that time period for sure, and I think that I want to go rent it or something, since now that I've seen the movie and I've got a vibe for it, I'd like to play the game maybe, so we'll see what we can do there.
Matt, have you seen Hitman?
I have not seen the movie. I've played a bunch of the games, like a lot of the games, but not the movie.
Are you looking forward to watching Hitman?
No, I've heard a lot of bad things.
Oh, it's fun.
To give a quick rundown, Dan, of the final 7 films we have for people that are keeping track, we have Hitman, In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege Tale, Max Payne, Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time, Need for Speed, Warcraft, and Assassin's Creed. Where does Hitman rank amongst those final 7 on your excitement scale?
Wow, excitement scale. I think you're kind of overshooting it already. I kind of do want to see Prince of Persia, and I've already seen Max Payne in theaters, so. And Warcraft. So I like Timothy Olyphant. Like, I'm a big fan of him, so that has me somewhat intrigued. And I'm interested about Prince of Persia because I've heard more positive things about that than more so than any other comic or video game movie that has come out. So that one I'm somewhat interested in. But yeah, So I would say second, I guess.
For the record, I've also heard good things about Need for Speed from a few people. Anyway.
Wait. Is TFG1 Mike multiple people now?
No. You brought up an interesting point there, Dan. I wonder how many of these films any of us have actually seen in a movie theater. Because I'm looking back at the 15 films that we've already covered, and I did not see any of them in the movie theater. I think the only one on this entire list of video game films that I saw in the theater would have been Warcraft and Assassin's Creed from last year. Amanda, did you see any of these in the movie theater?
Oh, you're asking
the wrong person with the wrong memory.
Yeah. Maybe Silent Hill. Definitely the two most recent ones.
Okay. Dan, is Max Payne the only one you saw in the theater?
Yep. And I saw a lot of the Resident Evil movies in the theater, and I saw Doom in the theater. So
okay, there we go. A couple of them there. Matt, have you seen any of the video game films in theater?
Any of the upcoming ones?
Any of the ones we covered at all?
Maybe not.
Yeah, I haven't outside the two that were just from last year. So it's interesting. I wonder how many people in the world have seen a majority of the video game films actually on the big screen, because it seems like something that most people would not go to the theater for, like unless it's something that they just really played a lot. Like these like scream like rental or free movie or something like that if you're going to check them out. So if you did like Postal, though, please go to the website and explain to us why.
What's wrong with you?
The website is www.geekcastradio.com. Just look for the Cinema Geek post on Postal, and then you can click on that in the comment section. You can write a comment. We'll reply. We'll respond. We'll engage in an interaction of a conversation. I'm just trying to throw words together that don't make sense like the movie. We can also interact with you on Twitter. The show handle there is @CinemaGeekcast, which a lot of people think that's our actual podcast name, but it is just the Cinema Geeks. Amanda, what's your Twitter?
@HardCandiMandi, eyes, no eyes.
Dan, what about your Twitter?
@MovieRevolt.
And Matt?
I'm at FridleyCent.
And I'm at OptimusSolo. So if you're enjoying the video game series, one other thing that we would ask you to do, go to iTunes and submit a review of the Cinema Geeks. If you do that before we get to Assassin's Creed, then we will enter your name into a drawing to win a 6-pack of movies that, yes, you guessed it, does include the one we just reviewed. You can have your very own DVD of Postal. So get those iTunes reviews in before it's too late. All right, that's it for us for this week. Tune in next week for another chance to listen to the Cinema Geeks.